The single dad joked to his neighbor, "Follow me." She said, "Okay," before he even finished. He laughed, expecting her to roll her eyes like everyone else did. Instead, she grabbed her jacket, locked her front door, and stood beside him with a quiet smile. That tiny moment, so ordinary that anyone watching would have ignored it, became the beginning of a story that changed two lonely lives forever. Every morning at exactly 6:15, Daniel pushed his old stroller down Maple Street with his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, bundled inside. Rain or sunshine, winter or summer, they followed the same route. He would stop at the bakery, buy one small loaf of discounted bread, then walk Lily to school before heading to his construction job. By evening, he was exhausted, covered in dust, and still somehow found enough energy to cook dinner, help with homework, wash clothes, and read bedtime stories. People admired him from a distance but rarely stepped into his world. They called him strong. They called him responsible. Some even called him a hero. But none of those words paid the bills or eased the loneliness that crept into his tiny apartment every night after Lily fell asleep. Across the hall lived Emma. She had moved into the building nearly a year earlier. She was quiet, polite, and always seemed to be carrying grocery bags or books. She greeted everyone with kindness but never stayed long enough for conversation. Rumors spread quickly in apartment buildings. Some believed she was divorced. Others thought she had lost someone she loved. No one really knew. Daniel and Emma exchanged smiles whenever they crossed paths, but that was the extent of their relationship. One chilly Saturday morning, Daniel was carrying 3 heavy bags of laundry while Lily balanced a basket almost as big as herself. Daniel smiled at Emma as she unlocked her apartment. "You know," he joked, "if you follow me, you'll get the exciting tour of the city's finest laundromat." Before he could finish the sentence with, "because that's where my glamorous weekends happen," Emma simply nodded. "Okay." Daniel blinked. "Wait, really?" She shrugged. "I've got nothing better to do." Lily giggled. "Can she come, Daddy?" Daniel laughed. "I guess she can." That trip to the laundromat lasted nearly 3 hours. While the washing machine spun, they drank cheap coffee from paper cups, colored pictures with Lily, and laughed over stories about burned dinners, broken appliances, and embarrassing childhood memories. For the first time in years, Daniel laughed so hard that tears filled his eyes. He had forgotten what it felt like. After that day, something quietly changed. Emma began knocking on their door with homemade soup whenever she cooked too much. Daniel fixed the loose cabinet in her kitchen. Lily started drawing pictures with 3 stick figures instead of 2. Life became lighter. Not perfect. Just lighter. One evening Lily asked a question that froze the room. "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy come home anymore?" Daniel's smile disappeared. Emma looked down at her plate. Daniel took a deep breath. "Mommy loved you more than anything." "Then why did she leave?" Daniel swallowed hard. "Sometimes people get very sick inside their hearts and minds." Lily frowned. "Like when you catch the flu?" "No, a different kind of sick." Years earlier, Daniel's wife, Sarah, had struggled with severe depression. She fought it silently for years before finally losing the battle. Daniel never told Lily every detail. He wanted her childhood to keep at least a little innocence. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Daniel sat alone on the apartment stairs. Emma quietly joined him. "You don't have to carry everything alone," she whispered. Daniel stared into the darkness. "I've been carrying everything for so long that I don't know how to stop." Emma didn't offer advice. She simply sat beside him. Sometimes silence says everything words cannot. Weeks turned into months. Daniel noticed little things. Emma remembered Lily's favorite cereal. She left encouraging notes inside Daniel's lunchbox after borrowing it to pack leftovers. She celebrated Lily's school projects as if they were family achievements. For the first time since Sarah died, the apartment no longer felt haunted by grief. It slowly became a home again. But happiness often invites new challenges. One afternoon, Daniel's construction company announced massive layoffs. His name was on the list. Just like that, his only source of income disappeared. He searched everywhere. Construction sites. Warehouses. Delivery companies. Factories. No one was hiring. Savings vanished within weeks. Bills piled higher. Daniel quietly skipped meals so Lily could eat. Emma noticed. One evening she knocked on his door carrying 2 dinner plates. "I accidentally cooked too much again." Daniel smiled weakly. "You've accidentally done that 4 nights this week." She smiled back. "I'm clearly terrible at measuring ingredients." He accepted the food without another word. Pride doesn't fill empty stomachs. Winter arrived early that year. Heating costs doubled. Daniel sat at the kitchen table surrounded by unpaid bills. Lily walked in wearing 2 sweaters. "Daddy?" "Yes." "Are we poor?" He forced a smile. "We're having a little adventure." She thought for a moment. "I don't mind adventures." Children have a remarkable way of making difficult moments both easier and more painful. The next morning Daniel sold his wedding watch. It was the last expensive thing he owned. When Emma found out, she quietly disappeared for an hour. She returned carrying grocery bags. "I found some discounts." Daniel knew she was lying. Nothing in those bags had discount stickers. He tried to refuse. Emma looked directly into his eyes. "If our situations were reversed, would you let me go hungry?" Daniel couldn't answer. He accepted the groceries. Days later another surprise arrived. The landlord announced rent would increase. Many tenants planned to move. Daniel knew he couldn't afford the new price. Packing boxes appeared in his apartment. Lily hugged her bedroom wall. "I don't want to leave." Daniel knelt beside her. "Home isn't the walls." "What is it?" "It's the people who love you." She nodded slowly. Then she asked the question Daniel feared most. "Will Emma come too?" He smiled sadly. "I don't know." That evening Emma stood outside his apartment holding an envelope. Inside was a job advertisement. A local community center needed someone to supervise maintenance and coach children's sports after school. "You love kids," Emma said. "You've been coaching Lily's soccer team for free." Daniel wasn't convinced. "I've never done anything like that professionally." "You've been raising a child alone for 6 years." She smiled. "Trust me, you're qualified." He applied. The interview felt impossible. Dozens of candidates. Better resumes. More experience. Daniel almost walked out. Then he remembered Lily's face. He stayed. 3 days later his phone rang. "You got the job." Daniel cried. Not loud. Just quiet tears of relief. The salary wasn't huge. But it was enough. Enough to keep the apartment. Enough to buy groceries. Enough to breathe again. Life slowly stabilized. The community center loved Daniel. Children naturally trusted him. Parents appreciated his patience. His kindness spread through the neighborhood. Months later the director promoted him to oversee family programs. One afternoon the center organized a charity picnic. Families laughed together under bright blue skies. Daniel watched Lily run across the grass with Emma. The scene felt strangely familiar. Like something he had dreamed about during countless lonely nights. Lily suddenly grabbed both adults by the hands. "You two should stop pretending." Daniel laughed. "Pretending what?" "That you're not already a family." Silence filled the space. Emma looked away. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. Children have an incredible ability to speak truths adults spend years avoiding. Several weeks passed before Daniel gathered enough courage. One evening he knocked on Emma's door. She smiled. "Need extra sugar again?" He laughed nervously. "Actually." He paused. "Would you, maybe, like to have dinner with me?" Emma folded her arms. "We've eaten dinner together about 100 times. Daniel smiled. "I mean, an actual date." She looked at him for a long moment. Then laughed softly. "I've been waiting a very long time for you to finish that sentence." They both laughed until tears filled their eyes. Their first official date wasn't expensive. No fancy restaurant. No elegant clothes. Just sandwiches in a quiet park while Lily spent the evening with Daniel's sister. It was perfect. Over the next year their relationship grew naturally. There were disagreements. There were misunderstandings. Healing from old wounds wasn't easy for either of them. Daniel still carried guilt over Sarah. Emma still struggled with trusting that happiness could last. Instead of running from those fears, they talked through them. Slowly. Patiently. Together. On a warm spring afternoon Daniel returned to the same sidewalk where everything had started. He smiled at Emma. "Remember when I joked, 'Follow me'?" She laughed. "I remember saying yes before you finished." He reached into his pocket. This time there was no joke. Only a small ring. "I finally finished what I wanted to say." He knelt. "Follow me, for the rest of our lives." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Okay." Again, she answered before he could finish. Lily clapped so loudly that people across the street turned to watch. Years later, when neighbors asked how they met, Daniel always smiled. "I made a terrible joke." Emma would grin. "And I answered too quickly." Everyone laughed. But only the three of them understood the deeper truth. Sometimes the smallest moments change everything. A simple invitation. A simple yes. A simple act of kindness. No grand speeches. No perfect timing. Just two lonely people choosing not to let another person walk through life alone. The greatest miracles rarely arrive with fireworks or applause. They begin with ordinary words, quiet compassion, and the courage to say yes before fear has a chance to answer. In a world where so many people carry invisible burdens, one small act of kindness can become the first chapter of someone else's happiest ending.